Hi everyone, welcome back to another tutorial today. In today's video, we are going to be learning how to make this milkmaid gathered dress with a basque waistline and a front button, okay? If that is what you want to learn how to make for yourself, then keep watching this video till the very end. This is MILKMAID Clothing YouTube channel where we teach you how to use patterns to create unlimited design. So let's head straight to the making of this beautiful dress. We're starting off on our basic bodice front from the shoulder all the way to the hemline where you want your dress to stop. Okay, so now having done that, the next thing we are going to do, of course, is to mark in our basque waistline. So to do that from your waistline, I'm coming down by 4 inches. 4 inches isn't a standard. You can decide to use 5 inches, but do not go beyond 5 inches so it doesn't look awkward and funny. So I went ahead to mark 4 inches, and then I'm going to be curving from my waistline to that 4 inches. Now again, the curve is not a standard. You can decide to use a straight line, you can decide to use a curved line. I was actually not sure if I'm going to be using a straight line or a curved line, but then I just decided to mark them in. And as we go on in the tutorial, I'll probably make a decision on which one to use. Okay, so I marked in another line, and then after that I decided to use the very one at the middle, which is actually not a straight line. It's also a curved line. So you can use a straight line. That doesn't matter. The thing is, just follow this tutorial to make sure you close up your darts properly to get the right fit. Now I've separated the pattern, so I'll set the lower part aside while we work on the upper part of it. So now this is what the upper part of our pattern looks like. You're going to be getting your sleeve. This is my front and back. Of course, we're using the front sleeve. This dress, I don't know if it's an off shoulder. No, because, okay, just keep watching. I'm going to be attaching the sleeve like so to the bodice. All right, that very part that looks like it's a strapless or is a strap, sorry, it's not a strap, it's some part of the sleeve. Now I'm going to have to draw in the depth of the neckline. I used 4.5 inches, that is after the basic depth neckline. All right, so I'm going to be connecting it from this point of the shoulder all the way to that 4.5 inches mark that I made initially for the depth of the neckline. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do want to subscribe. Click the bell notification icon so you'll be the very first person to know when I post lovely tutorials like this. Also share this video to other platforms where they will be needed. Thank you. So having done that, we'll go ahead to mark the neckline contour dart and also the shoulder contour dart. We're making neckline contour dart because we are cutting out the neckline. And also the shoulder contour dart, we're going to be marking it in because of course we are cutting out the shoulder. There is no shoulder on this dress. Okay, so having done that, I'll go ahead to mark in my bust arc, which is the distance between my bust point to my under bust. For me, it is 3 inches. I'm marking it on that line. That is where the dart intake for those contour darts is going to sit. All right, that is where the dart intake for our contour guideline is going to sit. Now I'm going to have to mark 1/2 inch, which is actually the dart intake for the contour. Right, so I'm going to be connecting it like so with my ruler to the bust point first. And then I'll go ahead to connect it back to the neckline like so. I also go ahead to connect it like so to the shoulder. At this point, I think my ruler is kind of short. So I'll go ahead to connect it, and then I'll go ahead to connect it back to the waist, to the bust point. Now, these are the contour darts that we need. I felt like the neckline is not supposed to be starting from that point. I had to start it from this point of the armhole and then connect it back to the depth of the neckline. Okay, I decided to start it from that point, and this is what your pattern should look like at this point. Now moving over to the center sleeve, I'm going ahead to mark in 3.5 inches. At this point, I felt I marked in so small. The 3.5 inches after sewing became so small. So you can decide to use 4 inches, 3.54, still the same thing. So just do whatever you want to do and connect it to that point because it's actually going to be forming a cap sleeve. I'm going to have to be cutting off or cutting out all the parts that we do not need for the neckline first. I'm going to have to cut out the part for the sleeve also. This is what this pattern looks like at this point. I'm going to be separating the pattern, sorry, from the under bust. So I'm going to separate the pattern now, and this is what we are having. I'll set this lower part aside so we can work on the upper part. Now, working on the upper part, the next thing we are going to do is to start closing up the darts. You start manipulating the darts. This part is very important. Firstly, I'll go ahead to cut open my side bust dart. And then I'll go ahead and start cutting open the contour darts. Okay, then I'll close them. I'll close it, thereby transferring the excess to the side bust dart. Okay, this contour dart is going to help your dress to fit on you. It's not going to gap at the neckline. I'll go ahead to also cut this one open. I'll go ahead to close it also and transfer the dart to the side bust. If you can see clearly, you will find out that the neckline has moved, or it has shifted from the alignment because of the dart that we closed. So I added fresh pattern paper and I'll go ahead to redraw it. Now, as you're redrawing it, make sure that your center front is still the same. You're only trying to cover up those spaces that kind of went more deeper. So this is what I'm doing right now. So can you see that? I've gone ahead to do that to put it back in place, and I'll go ahead to cut out the excess, other parts that we do not need. So at this point, this is what your pattern should look like. At this point, this is what your pattern should look like. Next, we are going to be closing this very dart that went from the under bust to the bust point, and also transferring it to the side bust dart like so. So having done this now, you should, before you close up this dart, you should cut this out on your lining. Before you close up the dart, cut this very pattern out on your lining. You will later find out what we are going to use it to do as we go on in this tutorial. So now that you have cut it out on your lining and you've closed up the side bust dart, the next thing is to start cutting out for the MILKMAID effect. I'm also going to be showing you that right now. We're going to be doing that here. You have to get a fresh pattern paper. Actually, this is not fresh. So I'm going to be cutting it out. I'm going to be cutting it out like so. Okay, we're going to be cutting out everything like so. You want to make sure you cut on that part of the dart or the bust point so it lays flat. We're going to be cutting everything out and placing it on this very new pattern or fresh pattern that we didn't use, like so. You see the way I'm cutting mine? So you're going to be placing it like so, making sure that it aligns. You're not just placing it, you're placing it to get its original shape. Can you see that? And I haven't done that. This is what it looks like. After I've placed it, I've cut out the size that we do not need. Remember the center, you're going to be adding 1 inch for your button allowance. 1 inch is perfect, please. So heading over to the lower part of it, which is actually very simple. We're just going to be cutting out that dart. And then we'll go ahead to just keep it aside. Also remember to add your button allowance to the center front for this part. So we'll set that aside and work on the lower part of it. Now for the lower part of it, I drew a straight line from the dart, for where the dart stopped, all the way to the hem. Now we're going to be cutting the dart open. And after doing that, on that straight line that we marked, which is actually your bust about measurement, we took it all the way down to the hem. We're going to be cutting on it. We're going to be cutting, cut on it up until where your dart stopped. So you form a kind of pivot, all right? So you close up the dart and here opens up on its own freely, right? So you're going to be closing that. I'm going to be taping the dart down. Now, having done this, the next thing you're going to do is to cut out this pattern, like cut it out, slash and spread all this pattern down as you're seeing on the screen. You're going to be cutting it out like you can see on the screen and place it on your fabric, all right? So the next thing now we're going to be doing is to work on the back. For the back, it's actually very simple. You're also going to be getting your sleeve. You attach it to the armhole area like so, like we did to the front, okay? gonna have to attach it and I taped it down. The next thing we are going to do now is to mark the sleeve length, which we are going to mark the same thing like we did for the front, 3.5 inches. I'll go ahead to curve it like so to this point. So having done that, now we're going to be cutting the part of the sleeve that we do not need. Now for the back, I'm not using a basque waistline. I'm just using the normal waistline. You saw that at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to be cutting it from the waistline and I'll set the lower part of it aside so we can work on the upper part of it. Also here, the next thing we are going to do is to mark in the depth of our neckline for the back. I'm using 5.5 inches or 6 inches after the foundation depth back neckline. So we're going to connect it now. So remember I started from this point of the armhole for the front. We're also going to be doing the same thing for the back. Now we're going to be marking the midpoint of our shoulder at the back, and I'll come down from that point by 3 inches. We're going to be squaring a line across the back like so on that 3 inches point. Now we're going to be marking in our nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 3 inches. And from there we're going to be forming a new dart. From there all the way to the waistline dart, we're going to be connecting it like so. Same thing here, we're going to be connecting it back like so. So having done this now, you've contoured the back so it does not gap. All right, you've contoured the back so it doesn't gap, and we'll go ahead now to cut it out. We're also going to cut out the dart, which is also the contour dart for the back, the waistline, and the contour dart for the back. Now, I'm not going to be putting a zipper at the back. The zipper is going to be at the waistline. If you want your waist to be snatched, you have to put a zipper at the side, sorry, not the waist, at the side of this dress. You can as well put your zipper at the back. It will come out nice. Okay, but mine is by the side. The button wasn't enough. I felt the button was going to be enough, but it wasn't enough, so I had to put a zipper at the side. So if you want your waist to be snatched, you have to put a zipper either at the back or the side. So this is what the back pattern looks like. Now for the lower part of the back, we're going to be doing the same thing that we did at the front. So here I'm just eyeballing the 3 inches and I'm cutting it all the way up to the part where the dart stopped. So that when we close up the dart for the back, we're going to be opening it up here. And remember, by the time you close up your dart, you're going to be slashing and spreading to place on your fabric like we did for the front. So here I'm gonna have to cut. This is the lower part before you get the MILKMAID pattern. So that part I'm folding in now is the center front. You have to fold it because of the button, and then you sew up this part. All right. So I'm going to be sewing up the other part, and for the center front you fold in for the bottom. Now you remember the part I told you you're going to be using as your lining before you slash and spread for the MILKMAID is going to help you like a guide on where you place your MILKMAID pattern, so you're not exaggerating. Okay, so you're not exaggerating. You have a guide on this is where my MILKMAID should land. This is how wide my neckline is. This is how the underbust, whatever is. This is how everything is. That was why I said you have to cut that out on the lining first before you slash and spread for the MILKMAID. So that's the benefit of that very thing I said there. So I'm going to have to place mine here and I'll go ahead and sew it up. So I'm going to have to sew it up also. This is what it looks like. Can you see the back? Okay. At this point, they've taken the light and the natural lightning was not given because it looks like it wants to rain. So I'm going ahead to place this like so. Okay. And I haven't placed it. This is what it looks like. I've joined the back. I told you there's no zipper at the back, but you can put zipper at the back of yours. So we're going to be sewing on that center sleeve and then shaping by the side. Same thing here, sew on the center sleeve and shaping by the side. It's actually not the shoulder, it's the sleeve. If you remember as we're drafting the pattern. Haven't done that, this is what the pattern looks like. So the final step now is to gather the lower part of it. You're going to be gathering the lower part of it and make sure you fix everything to this point. Okay, make sure you mark the notch for your center, and you want to place this together because it's actually a front button. You want to place it together and stitch it down before you start gathering this on it. So you're going to be gathering this like so. Same thing here, and you also do the same thing for the back, and then you stitch up at the sides depending on the amount of allowance you have. All right, and having done that, this is the outcome of this design. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.